There's something about time travel that creates that feeling. You know that feeling, right? Even if you can't aptly elocute said feeling, it murmurs in your chest softly. And it's not high blood pressure induced from watching Nathan Fielder interact with anyone. Time and space are inseparable from each other, and we are part of space. When you move our point in time, our perception of space doesn't exactly move with it, you know? The space we are taken to clashes with the space that we know. There's a shudder that comes over us from that thought, and it's familiar. Why do we know this feeling? We've never time traveled before. This is something that SteinsGate answers for us, or more specifically illustrates for us to put together ourselves. Whenever people regard SteinsGate's time travel, it's as this intellectually sound and intriguing storytelling device, but it's way more than just cerebral. It is visceral. People get caught up with the mechanics, but really it's the sentimental aspect that is valuable. This cerebral concept of time travel isn't intellectual play in this story as much as it is a medium to help us understand ourselves better. Like the stories around time travel have with me as they seem to follow me through time. Like as a child, some of my favorite games on the Nintendo 64 that I'm staring at right now on top of my shelf were the two Zelda games specifically centered around time. Adventure is cool, is what my little kid heart felt, but ooh, what's this other strange feeling swimming in there? Are all the Lunchables giving me a calcium buildup? No, you little kid. This is called melancholy. You better get used to it because you're going to spend your life obsessed with this feeling. There is this pervasive feeling of loneliness in those games because time travel always causes disconnection. The time traveler from the world around them. The world of Ocarina of Time for its first several hours feels like an adolescent, nostalgic, rose-colored fantasy adventure. Then something shifts. Link leaps forward in time. 7 years and the nostalgia is gone. Link is a character whose internal world can't intersect with the world outside it. A child morphing into an adult's body to an adult in a child's body by the end. Majora's Mask is the sequel, and it has you connecting with all these people throughout its setting, helping them in any way possible physically to emotionally. You get these little shards of intimacy with these people, like when the cute redhead lady gives you a big old hug, irrevocably changing something inside me. Wait a second. The riddle has been solved. But unfortunately, you have to travel back in time to the beginning and erase those moments from existence because you only have 3 days before the end of the world comes. You talk to them again and it's like you are meeting for the first time all over again. They don't even know you. Time travel frequently depicts a feeling of disconnect from others around you, making someone further and further an outcast as they become isolated from the world around them. And to be honest, all these feelings can be kind of abstractly relatable. This high concept sci-fi narrative device evokes that very intimate human feeling, and this feels like SteinsGate. There was a point where I wasn't into anime, funnily enough, if you glance at my channel now or even just talk to me. Probably because everyone around me who liked anime was kind of annoying about it, and whenever they showed me stuff like Dragon Ball Z, I was like, why do they look like that though? Actually, this YouTube channel used to be a Let's Play channel. And through a collision of special interests, I guess, I met my best friend through a comment of his on my Super Mario Galaxy Let's Play, because I think he thought I had the potential to become the next Nintendo Capri Sun. Over the course of the next few years, he started the process of indoctrinating me into liking anime by stapling me onto a chair, beaming out of context clips of Clannad and otherwise into my brain while injecting some kind of nervous system altering drug directly into my spinal fluid. Then he was like, hey, maybe we should just actually watch some anime instead. So without going off the track too much, we watched some stuff that really had no staying power in my mind. Then comes summer 2016 and he chops me in the throat. Whoosh! It's time for some big boy stuff, and puts on SteinsGate. I was nearly 17 at this time, and my ability to understand and express why something connected with me was not well developed at all. Like how I felt watching everything back then was kind of how I feel watching a David Lynch work for the first time. I don't know why, but this made my chest tingle. So I couldn't tell you exactly why it resonated with me, but I always thought about the characters of SteinsGate a lot. And with it, this warmth and understanding came. And now I realize, because there is a lot of myself in these characters. Like, whenever someone praises SteinsGate, it's with the whole, oh yeah, the time travel mechanics are really well developed, there's no plot holes, yada yada. But I think anyone who actually cares will tell you that all that stuff only really works because that time travel was discovered accidentally by experimenting with a microwave and cell phone by a group of college students plus one little ditzy high school girl as quirky and idiosyncratic as this idea. The characters are all offbeat in some way, but there's a constant feeling of humanity bubbling underneath the surface of these characters throughout that becomes more apparent as the story unravels these characters. There are layers beneath these outlandish personality traits because SteinsGate wants you to come to understand these characters and in turn understand people and the most oppressive thing to the human condition. A theme so seamlessly tied into every aspect of the anime, from its plot, character writing, and presentation style, that creates this perfectly cohesive package. And that all starts with establishing blinding, harsh, searing white light of summer sun seeps in, reality being bleached out. This is the consistent texture of the environment in the anime, a world of hazy reality. The first shot of Okabe is this oppressive light blanketing over him, washing away the world around him, the only real figure we can make out of the haze. The opening sequence is this out-of-body abstract yapping to flickering images of power lines. However, once his chuny monologue ends, he is called out to by Mayuri. The picture converts its focus like a camera's nozzle has been twisted. Instead of the oppressive, omniscient light, the blue sky becomes visible for the first time. Mayuri calling out to Okabe overtly grounds him back to the world. Immediately, visual storytelling is done to give us the vibes of these two's relationship, an anchor that keeps the SS Chunibyo from drifting away. But then, forebodingly, Mayuri reaches out towards the source of that oppressive feeling with an innocent grin as it starts to wash over her face and blot her out. Like if she isn't careful, she could be swallowed up by this unknown, abstract force. The setting of SteinsGate is the perpetually busy, densely populated city of Tokyo, yet it feels nebulous, behind a blurry white texture away from the characters. A texture that evokes the audience to feel the same as the characters. Like, when it comes to socializing, I can only really describe the characters as like a toddler playing the tutorial level of Banjo-Kazooie. There's endearing mannerisms as they go their way through a conversation, even if they get hit by a carrot and go, oh! But this is a wall for people who don't know how to earnestly connect or communicate. Like, to give you a taste, Ferris indulges herself in her hobbies by spreading moe culture throughout Akiba to distract herself from the loneliness she feels by the void left behind by her father's passing when she was just a young girl. Ruka feels discomfort inside their own body because they feel like they can't properly connect the way they want with the one they love due to their biological sex, and anxiety enhanced being raised as an heir to a shrine, a kind of traditionalist structure. Time travel does not establish the character's loneliness. These aspects are already there before timelines are ever messed with. Okabe is in his own world with his Chunisms before he ever accidentally sends a D-mail. What time travel does is highlight these things, as he becomes further and further isolated from his friends and the world as he becomes the only one to know the world as he knows it. The shops he used to frequent with friends are now non-existent to those same friends. The only one who knows of the tragedies looming around the corner. The only one affected by the trauma of those events while the world around him is oblivious to the suffering. One of SteinsGate's most iconic scenes is where Okabe realizes that the D-mail's impact has shifted outside of just his interpersonal relationships and into the setting itself. Vocals intensifying and a spiraling camera equivalent to his own psyche. Even space itself has transformed from his actions. What he perceives is now unequivalent to what he knows. He can't even vocalize this discomfort because his friends will be like, "Ah, Okabe, never letting go of the bit, I see." When he's like, "What the fuck?" Because he has already, in a way, disconnected himself from these friends by being Hoen Kyoma instead of Okabe Rentaro. So the D-mail comes into play, a brilliant storytelling device, a device that allows these characters to shift the past with a carefully worded personal email. It is giving these characters a way to exhume any oogie boogie men in their closet, an exploration of the things weighing down on them. Ferris indulges in her hobby of moe to distract herself from her father's death. So understandably, she prevents her father's death. Ferris is otaku in a way that even eclipses Okabe, resulting in unhinged chuniness that sounds like every time they interact. She clearly has an affinity for that type of thing, even in the world line where she has her father, but it's not being used as a gauze to stifle the gushing blood of loneliness, because the removal of the colorful culture of Akiba implies this wound was so large. She uses her influence to shower her hobby all over the city she lives in, indulging herself in her hobbies to escape her loneliness by painting it everywhere she could possibly go. It would be like if I made all of my hometown charred sparkly themed stores. Alright, Zaxby's, it's time to make fun of overweight women in San Antonio. It's escape by overstimulation, escape by creating an otaku Alice in Wonderland. It's like the 2009 rich Japanese girl version of infinitely scrolling TikTok to not think about any of your trauma. SteinsGate's OST is amazing, mood-bending, and characterizing, like Suzuha's leitmotif. The reflective plucking of the guitar strings, but between those is the sound of a lone wind blowing from far, far away. The sound of SteinsGate's most displaced character. Suzuha makes an understandable but selfish pit stop in the midst of a humongous burden of a mission, so she can actually participate in the everyday life of the people she has been connected to but never known. Okabe's time travel disconnect comes from switching world lines, the familiar slightly distorting and blurring with the unfamiliar, but Suzuha's disconnect is to the extreme as she experiences 3 very different time periods with very nearly no direct personal connections to each other, as her father and friends are all people she only knows from word of mouth. To go from "How many are with you? We make for drop-off point F by twilight. Quick, roll in the dead so the hounds don't pick up your scent," to fat jokes is extremely valuable. To be able to properly live, spending days slacking off, at most fixing bikes, doing mundane missions, and being able to once again meet proof that there was someone who wanted her in this world, that loved her and wanted the best for her. But with how SteinsGate is always playing with time, this comfort is only a transient, bittersweet luxury. Before she leaves, Okabe asks her if she regrets making memories with them, an intuition that comes from his own experience with time travel. She insists that she doesn't, but in the end, Suzuha is a soldier, putting the weight of the world on her shoulders for a mission she deems as bigger than her. A weight that accumulated by the love she felt with the Future Gadget Lab. Memories twist and bend her in directions she can't recover from when they finally come back, after being left in an amnesic haze of identity that prevented her from being able to truly connect with anyone there. A guilt that can't be reconciled because of a separation of decades between the one she feels indebted to fogs up her lungs and suffocates her to the point where she has to escape it. But there is a way to remedy such a tragedy. If anything, this is what time travel would be for, but at the cost of the memories of a daughter and father, moments of raw love and earnesty, proof that there was somebody that loved you, the cost of fun memories with friends. It's a sobering compromise that is really just felt. In the timeline where Okabe reverts this fate, Mr. Braun reveals that she never married and recounts her as a woman who had this air of being unusual and removed from the world. But she always helped Mr. Braun and tells him life is a cycle of being helped and helping. One day, you should help someone yourself. We are only able to really get vague feelings of where her life ended up. A bittersweet wind echoing through the corridors of time to graze our cheeks. We feel the loneliness of being tragically severed from the connections and love she had been searching for. But despite that, she still kept going and lived that life, spreading kindness when she could, all because of those few fleeting moments she was able to have and was able to remember and hold on to. Daru's role in this storyline makes it all the more heart-wrenching. Daru has a singular mode of communication, and that's through pervy jokes or eroge talk, which is how he spends his time. Even when he's with friends, the madman. For the majority of SteinsGate, he's the character that's sort of just like, anytime he says anything, you're like, alright, okay. But there's this one scene where something sort of shifts. Suzuha generally opens herself up to Daru and he listens earnestly. They just click with each other. His face here begins to betray an emotional vulnerability not seen with his character yet. Like the fact that he tries to help Suzuha without telling anyone and kind of just brushing it off shows that he has a trouble with sincerity. Like he has this kindness inside him, but like how to get it out, you know? After they both find out they are father and daughter, Daru tries to break the tension with a move that would be equivalent to having me, drunk with eggnog, shoot the ball from half court to take the lead with 0.1 seconds to go in the NBA Finals. But I love it because it is consistent with Daru being a guy who is just awkward and doesn't know how to navigate a situation where emotions come out unfiltered. Because this isn't a visual novel. Well, okay, I mean, the pervyisms aren't things he does out of any sort of malice. It's just hard to be vulnerable and real. Daru and Suzuha's dynamic is one of the earliest moments in SteinsGate where the tears start to really fall. Daru is framed the most static and least seriously out of all the characters up until this point, but they decided to do something sincere and empathetic by peeling away layers from this social terrorist to show that he is like the others, an outcast that struggles with vulnerability but wants the warmth of connection too. The way you can see his barriers just slowly break down through his body language, accepting a hug from Suzuha, allowing him to be vulnerable and genuine. He is a guy who probably didn't have much social interaction with others, so a lot of what he acts out in social situations is pervy stuff he gets from eroge or other otaku material when it comes to real genuine emotions, and stumbles as any person would. The moment he can drop that pretense completely as Suzuha takes off through time and he yells after her, expressing raw, earnest feelings of care for her, is one that gets me choked up just about every time I see it. It shows such immense empathy, the way they break down this poster boy otaku to a real, raw human being. This empathy permeates the story, even extending itself to the foils of the story. Moeka, Kiryu, and FB, we'll call him. Loneliness has chipped away at Moeka in a way that it hasn't with the other characters. Moeka is the poster girl for the way loneliness chips away at the psyche of someone until all that's left is a broken mess. Her psyche being formed into a formless, brittle sculpture. The only power scaling I'm interested in at all is how socially stunted SteinsGate's characters are, and Moeka is in first place. She can't properly engage in a conversation face to face, requiring a degree of separation by communicating via only texting even when she is right next to a person. The amount of isolation this personality had to have cultivated has to be crushing, to the point she was on the verge of taking her own life before she was reached out to by FB, who takes advantage of her by enacting a role as something as simple and common as a mother. FB gives her meaning by making her feel special to him. And she craves this like a starving feral beast drooling over scraps. These scraps lead her by the nose, telling her which way to go, like dress in skin-tight leather and kill a high schooler. Mayuri and Moeka are foils to one another. More specifically, FB and Moeka are foils to Okabe and Mayuri. If Moeka wipes in the socially stunted competition, Mayuri is SteinsGate's most socially competent, but easily could have not turned out as such. Mr. Braun takes advantage of Moeka's suffering and takes her agency hostage under a fake pseudonym for his own ends. But Okabe takes care of Mayuri through a fake pseudonym out of love and helps her come into the lively, emotionally intelligent girl she is today while never actually taking her hostage like he says he does, respecting her agency completely. You can see this with how they react to distance. When Mayuri notices Okabe has been distant, she acts sincerely sad that she hasn't been able to be around her best friend, but mostly worried about him. Then with Moeka, it's like a drug she's become dependent on has been taken away. FB has been shooting her up with empty positive reinforcement, whittling away when she is cut off. We see what really makes Okabe different from Braun is when his sincerity shines through, saying what is obviously the truth about her relationship with FB. Even she has to know it. She looks down at the marks left by Okabe and decides to help him because they were real marks left by real feeling, not the vague pixels on her phone screen. Okabe did genuinely try to give her that place she wanted to be. Mr. Braun says at one point in his tough guy, hard-ass store owner personality, there's a much deeper truth to this than what would seem, as he lacks that agency to foster connections in his life. Braun was never really given a proper shot at life, having to become essentially a soldier just to survive poverty. He is suffering in his own bubble, unable to reach outside of that wet film to anyone with the truth, because if the bubble pops, he will too. Not even his daughter, who is simultaneously his emotional tether to humanity, but also a way to strap him further into his life as an agent. After reversing Mocha's demail, Mr. Braun and his daughter enjoy a moment tucked away in the darkness of the store, but underlined by the portentous light of the CRT behind them. Okabe is just an observer through the tinted window. When we literally get an info dump about the original 3 lab members by Okabe, we are seeing through the POV of a TV. It's a funny bit of a meta joke as we're kind of reversed, but it still gives the effect that he is performing. That maybe this is actually an act, that there is more beneath what these characters are displaying. In that way, Okabe really embodies SteinsGate, as he does in literally every other facet, considering he is the protagonist. The vast majority of the story is through his POV, and someone's enjoyment is most likely going to be based on how much they buy into Okabe. This is easy to do, especially for me, given how outrageous of a character concept he is. Like, he's not actually a mad scientist, he's just trying really hard to convince you he is. Like, that's intrinsically hilarious. Mamoru Miyano does some 2018 LeBron James performance in his voice acting. Is that my 3rd basketball reference in this video? Will the target audience even understand this? The range of his performance, from the laughs to quiffs to outbursts, amazing. In a story about freaks, Okabe stands out on another tier. The mad scientist act becomes equally emotional as it is funny, if not more so, when you unravel Okabe throughout the narrative. Little looks, lines, actions that pave the way to bigger looks, lines, and actions, giving us an awkward young adult who more than anything desires connection and kinship, and he unfortunately does not know how to do that in a normal functioning way, so he wears a lab coat. Delving into the Hoen Kyoma persona gives him the ability to bypass any sort of social awkwardness and turn anything into something at least somewhat amusing, because that genuineness can feel uncomfortable and vulnerable. He can offer to help Suzuha by framing his actions as the crazy cuckoo whims of a mad scientist's experiments, instead of revealing his earnest feeling of wanting to help someone, keying in that he may care about them. He can laugh off his comforting words to Kurisu as a scheme she fell for, because earnestly meaning words claiming her as an important person to him would be uncomfortably vulnerable. The cracks beneath Hoen Kyoma are shown as early as the 1st episode, when Okabe aloofly gives Mayuri an upa and tries to deflect any sentimental reason for doing so, but she gives a big, knowing smile of genuine appreciation and melts his demeanor at the cue of the jingle in the background. Like, oh my god, the anime staff just gets it. Our first real look at the core of what makes SteinsGate work. Mayuri's earnesty and Okabe's clumsy kindness. This tiny bit of pretense can act as sort of a double-edged sword for Okabe. It most definitely gives him this strange confidence that allows him to be proactive in gathering people around him and making connections, but it can also highlight a ton of his social ineptitude. In character as Hoen, he yells at Kurisu over her using the wrong name, and she gets shaken up and starts to cry like she got yelled out by a Waffle House employee. Even Daru is like, bro, the moment you see the conception of the mad scientist persona is the moment you start to understand what Okabe values. A small sweet girl about to get sucked up into stardust to meet her deceased grandmother. A kid not knowing what to do but to save his friend reenacts the TV show. That's where it started, a child's emotional defense mechanism. How can a kid say something stupid and vulnerable like, I love you, so please stay with me? how would they react to his feelings? Would being earnest even work? This line of thinking is a flaw that follows him to now with everyone, but it gets across his feelings. Mayuri still treasures him deeply and sees through his acts and understands him deeply. The way he helped her through her depression is something that she always feels thankful for. And this leads to a nuance about Okabe's character that I adore. That despite this guise of a wicked mad scientist, his true character always shines through this persona. To people around him, who he actually is obvious. The audience can even see it through the visual framing of Okabe, the perceptive glances he gives to his friends before he dives in with whatever BS he has to say are very little touches but say so much. This is what I think is ultimately what makes people attracted to Okabe, his underlying kindness that is shown through the roundabout ways he comforts others in their emotionally unguarded moments. The lab he has cultivated is a place where people can come to be with friends, to have fun and loosen up. It makes that lingering degree of separation between Okabe and the rest of the cast pretty sad, as even though all these people accept and come to care for Okabe for who he is, he tends to bear everything alone. There's a moment where Okabe offers to take Mayuri's bag of groceries for no particular reason, and they briefly, lightly touch hands. It is about as intimate as any of the characters have gotten at this point, but there is a degree of separation, a slight inch. As they separate, a desolate field flashes on the screen for a split second, a degree of separation that stretches across a vast desert. Mayuri is the heart of SteinsGate, ditzy but oddly perceptive towards others and the most transparent character in the story. She notices that Daru and Suzuha get along strangely well and is able to even figure out that they are in fact father and daughter. Like, holy crap, Mayuri, Sherlock Holmes can make that deduction. She is always able to tell Okabe's emotions, even if during Okabe's mental anguish in this series, she isn't able to tell what exactly is going on with him. Just a feeling of being disconnected from him bubbles throughout as she feels she is drifting farther and farther from him, as he in fact is. This scene demonstrates Mayuri's importance to the narrative. She realizes first how time travel can be this mournfully lonely thing. In a way, memories are our connections to people, and not having those memories is one thing, but even worse is being the only one to have those memories. The only one to remember an intimate encounter, to remember a delicate moment that molds a bond. This happens in the story and we feel the weight of it. Okabe experiences a heartfelt moment but ends up having to give that moment up after time travel. He carries these sweet memories in his head but nobody to share them with. I remember watching SteinsGate for the first time, and anytime a sweet little moment would be reversed, I'm like, what? Mayuri can immediately think of this aspect when the others can't. Hone in on what she prioritizes as a person. She adores connections with people and bathing in the warmth of memories and friendship. Even when Suzuha meets her tragic fate in a different timeline, Mayuri is desperate for Okabe not to change the past, since she knows others such as Daru value those memories and moments they had with her, and so does she. This is a reason why her survival is essential in the core conflict of the series. She must survive because Not only is she this sweet, kind soul, but she is a beautiful example of a person who can be themselves and express what they feel when everyone else in the series struggles with it. Someone who is always accepting of who someone is deep down. See, in the beginning scene where Mayuri reaches out to the sun, where it feels like an oppressive higher power is about to bleach her out of existence, that's not at all what is happening according to her. She's not reaching towards the sun, but rather to the stars. She doesn't see this oppressive thing making them uncomfortable, but something that isn't visible at the moment, the place she believes her grandmother is resting.
星なんて見えないだろう。
あのね、お昼でもお星様はそこにあるんだよ。
Which is something you can metaphorically apply to aspects of the rest of the series. She can see optimistically nowadays even in the face of an uncomfortable light, but also how she knows what is past the surface of something or someone, no matter what is there.
岡部ともさっき話してたの。このラボのこと一番冷静に見てたのはマユリだったのかもって。
Kurisu loves science, but because of how dang good she is at it, it pushes people away from her. I often think of one moment later in the series where Kurisu looks so happy trying to connect with her dad, with her findings in his field of study, trying to reach out earnestly on his own grounds, only to be utterly rejected and scorned. Her father, her peers have nothing but, fuck off, nerd energy, because she is a person who is so much smarter than anyone in the room pretty much 100% of the time. That genuine desire to share this passion with others eventually warps into sardonicism, but she's not unlike Okabe in that her true personality and feelings aren't especially well hidden. She frequently stumbles after accidentally saying anything earnest while also accidentally saying aloud internet lingo she got from 2chan, a place she goes on because she loves arguing and debating, but because of the ostracization of her colleagues, she doesn't have much room to do that in earnest. So she spends a decent amount of time on the internet arguing on online forums, but she can go toe-to-toe with Okabe. Mayuri even says they look like they have fun when the proverbial swords are out. I mean, look at how smug she is dunking on Okabe in a debate. She loves this shit. She's on the record saying that 99.9% of science is boring, but anytime we see her at work within the lab, there's never any palpable feeling of boredom. One time when the lab's electricity went out from a stupid little science-y shenanigan, a shade pillows over the lab. While fumbling around with Okabe, maybe because of the darkness filtering out the others' faces, she's able to laugh. She admits that this childlike place suits her more than the strict lab back in America. Maybe because a haze of darkness covers her face. Okabe says something vulnerable too. They become closer, finding out that they value similar things. Wanting a spoon in the lab is embarrassing to her because it's a representation of permanence, a mark that shows she belongs there in this place where she can be that child that is passionate about science. It's intimate, something she is only comfortable proposing after Okabe and her have torn down some barriers after he has shown vulnerability to her. Which is why she gets flustered after he brings it up after time leaving. She fits right now in this club of grown children, being plagued by similar feelings, but she stands out in how self-assured she is. She has said that even though she has only lived 18 years, she wouldn't change a single part of it. Even the failures make up who she is, and she doesn't want to deny who she is. She can get flustered when she shows her vulnerable side, but she is extremely confident in aspects of herself. She is the most reliable person out of SteinsGate's narrative, and it is why she is so important to Okabe, whose confidence and mental fortitude can be pretty volatile. Her theme song illustrates her presence on the series. When it comes in, there's something calm, logical, and reassuring about it, like a shelter away from the rain. And this is the most emotionally potent of SteinsGate's story threads. Okabe discovering more and more about Kurisu beyond the snide, thorny demeanor as the series goes on. She's sarcastic, but she's a dork. She's a little sensitive about her relationship with her dad. She has these little nuggets of wisdom that go beyond her years. She's a reliable source of support, and that more than anything, she wants a place to belong just like he does. This dynamic ends up as one of mutual transparency, as Okabe sees past her exterior just like she sees past his. This relationship between Okabe and Kurisu ends up being the emotional core and payoff of the series, and is SteinsGate's answer to its conflict of the loneliness of time travel. Even when he's shifting world lines and nothing makes sense or inconsistencies poke holes in reality, he still develops an important bond with Kurisu. No matter where he ends up, she ends up always being there. He's not alone, not as long as he opens up to her. She is always there, every time. That scene where Okabe and Mayuri briefly touch hands in the beginning of the series, there is an inch of separation. When Okabe is at his lowest point in a viscous bubble of his own trauma, Kurisu reaches through that barrier. She reaches out her hands and they touch. And I don't mean barely, I mean like full-on hand fucking right here. So much that's unsaid but understood from every single frame of animation in this embrace. SteinsGate somehow turns this pseudo-comedy sci-fi thriller into my favorite love story ever? There's just something about these two's relationship that strikes this chord with me in a way so powerful it's hard to express. It's almost like a memory lost in time. I can't make out the full concrete shape of it, but the feeling lingers like a throbbing wound on the heart. Even beyond the thematics of it, the nuance of the execution creates so much pathos. The fun in having someone you can banter and tease relentlessly with. The comfort in having someone who sees you for who you are and accepts you, and being able to act as a support for each other in the cold, unrelenting reality of the world. There's a rawness in every interaction, all the teases and banter that feel like they are genuinely themselves when they are around each other. Something about being able to just find that person that you can connect with on a truly emotional level is something that all people desire. There's something about falling in love that brings out this part of you that feels so genuine. I believe Savannah Brown said in a video I'll cite, she says, "Love is trying to recreate the euphoria of childhood together. Maybe." And they always feel like children, having fun, bickering, to the point I feel like a child watching them too. There is a subtle visual effect the anime does to subconsciously evoke the comfort of this relationship, and even other relationships within the series. This consistent visual motif of the oppressive blinding white light of summer that bleaches out the world around the characters, representing loneliness, disconnect from the world, or more abstract feelings of oppressiveness. So what does the opposite represent? The moments in the dark. Consistently, darkness represents intimacy and vulnerability in SteinsGate. All of Okabe and Kurisu's most intimate moments take place in the comforting shade.
私は仲間だと思ってるよ。無論だ。
As they take shelter in the rain at the radio building, bickering, Kurisu sews back together the beloved lab coat that is so central to his identity, forever leaving her mark on him. In the dark lab, Rain falls around them, dimming the world of its sweltering light and emptying the streets besides two children, fluttering around in the rain with wonder. Just like these two. They are actually the only ones in the world right now. Time is at a standstill just for them, in the place they have spent their days bantering like children but doing something that feels bigger than that. Within this dark refuge, they mutually commemorate their love. Time feels like it is at a standstill, but it keeps going. A moment so beautiful that it is ephemeral, a cruel truth to time.
相対性理論ってとてもロマンチックでとても切ないものだね。
The bittersweet feeling of two people enjoying each other's company so much that the slow crawl of time goes unnoticed by them, instead becoming a blip in both of their lives. It's such a poetic and evocative way to describe the liberation and melancholy of being with your loved one, if only just for a moment. I've been there before. I remember being in my car with her on our last night together and the rain started to fall. Eventually the windows fog up like the rest of the world is frozen. We're the only two not frozen, but time is still moving. I remember all of the feelings, but all the little moments blurred together because that time was too short. Actually, I think it was hours maybe, but the theory of relativity, you know? Because once those windows unfogged, our time together would end. Kurisu finds comfort in Okabe's love for her, finding peace with her potential fate as long as he can remember her despite the pains it will bring. A time leap later, everything seems normal and finally at peace, but Okabe looks down and sees the thread Kurisu left on his lab coat. It's gone. The relationship, gone. He immediately goes into his persona, but who is he doing this for? Mayuri, of course, catches on to this. She tells him she's okay now. He doesn't have to pretend for her now. Now he can take care of himself. But how does he do that? He doesn't need to be Hoen Kyoma for Mayuri anymore, so he's dead. Right after that decision, though, he is given an opportunity, a choice to go back and save Kurisu, a chance to go against what Okabe has accepted as the fatalistic nature of things. Even though this is the person he loves the most, he has accumulated pessimism towards the will of time itself. A man who holds the people he loves above anything else in the world is hesitant to save her because of the trauma and crushing loneliness he has endured. He has been prone to the wrong thing happening over and over again by trying to save the one he loves. He even inadvertently becomes the one to kill her. In his mind, he thinks, what's the point in trying to fight against the tides? What's the point in trying? Then he has sense smacked into him by Mayuri, a person who his persistence has already saved, not just from her fate in other world lines, but from the moment he held onto her tight, keeping her from Stardust itself. The most emotionally intelligent, hopeful, and genuine character in SteinsGate makes that push for Okabe to save Kurisu, repaying him in full for years of being a loving friend. That symbol of optimism in this relentless hellscape of a world shows her heart, someone who values and knows the power of connections the most, pushes him to grasp onto that connection with Kurisu and never let go. On a cold winter day blanketed in snow, the world is frozen in time. Mayuri first visits Okabe's lab. The temperature is low and the colors and light dulled. A very sleepy melancholy hugs the air, leaving Okabe and her to do just low-key activities. But there's a happiness that Mayuri feels at this moment. Everything in the scene can make one feel a certain moodiness and isolation, but despite that, there's an intimacy from Mayuri's narration on how these two can simply just enjoy each other's company. Mayuri says she doesn't think the illusion conductor is a bad guy. Her way of saying how this make-believe mad scientist in hostage situation isn't at all a bad thing. Even though their current relationship is built on a pretend premise, there's nothing false about the affection and happiness the two have for each other. Mayuri's wisdom here is profound. Hoen Kyoma isn't this wholly unhealthy coping mechanism. It's something that has allowed him to be able to connect with others while having a good-ass time. And the same can go for the other characters too. There's still warmth in all these characters' friendships with one another. Some of the characters' personalities might be a bit illusory, but are these connections as well? Okabe's moments of warmth and connections he finds with people may fade away like an illusion after he time leaps. But so what? Feelings can transcend time after all, so why can't they transcend just a teensy little bit of pretend? Mayuri understands all of that. She sees through all of the walls people put up, but loves all of them, walls included, all the same. She loves both Okabe Rentaro and Hoen Kyoma after all. Okabe channels Hoen Kyoma like this for his final operation to save Kurisu. Not as this make-believe persona that has this bitter undertone to it, but in a way that is triumphant. A way to reject the fatalistic nature of this world that is seemingly hell-bent on making him as broken and lonely as possible. To break out of that pessimistic helplessness he couldn't help but fall into. In a parallel of the opening scene, Okabe reaches out to the same light that seemed to eat Mayuri whole and squashes it with his hand. Or maybe he is reaching for something beyond it. From this point onwards, Hoen Kyoma integrates into his personality in a way that is more mature, more true to himself. As he meets Kurisu again in the last scene and goes on one of his tangents, his voice and eyes exude this palpable warmth as his intentions come out more directly, the two parts of him coalescing more maturely. To get back to that world line Okabe knows more than any world line, he had to come to understand the people who make that world line what it is. It's only through coming to know the other side of the people around him, their pain and loneliness, that he can return to a world line without that crippling loneliness.
なんか気持ち悪いわね。頭の中を覗かれてるみたいで。でもタイムリープっていうのはそういうことなのかもしれない。
Okabe is the perfect protagonist for SteinsGate because, in the end, not only does he know more than anyone else how crushing loneliness is, but he is also aware of all the others' loneliness as well. Okabe can fully develop empathy for the characters of the series by the end, and due to the viewers being in his shoes, this empathy is communicated to us and helps us empathize in general more. I think this is really important nowadays too, to create this empathy for socially awkward and incompetent people, because empathy for these kinds of people is kind of at a low right now. Okabe gives out lab member badges to the various characters in the story at the end because that lab is a place where people can stay and feel like they belong. And Okabe wants to make sure they know that in his usual roundabout way. By the end, that sort of pretense others have with Okabe is gone, even if they don't remember it. And inviting them to the future gadget lab is his way of communicating that, by giving them a place they can go and connect in whatever way they want or need to. Perhaps that is one reason Kurisu falls for Okabe. He has cultivated an environment for these weirdos to fit in, to have a place of warmth and belonging. He created the lab for friends, which you can see in the zany gadgets made throughout the series with no real practical usage. They are all goofy and feel like they were made as some sort of fun cooperative thing to do with his fellow lab members, a way to spend time with friends he cherishes.
君たちのラボってさ、なんかいいね。みんなが仲良くていつも楽しそうで、あんな居心地のいい時間は生まれて初めてだったよ。
Ultimately, the SteinsGate world line is a world where these characters can accept themselves and the fate they've been given through not some idyllic world, but through their means in the solace of the future gadget lab, a place to belong. People's feelings are memories that transcend time. That's a quote that's true. SteinsGate places so much importance on feelings of connection and love that those feelings leak over into different world lines. So it makes the most sense that the one with the reading Steiner, the ability to remember different world lines, is the one who values connection the most. Perhaps that's why SteinsGate connects with me so much. Even now I can come back to SteinsGate and still feel the warmth in between, the hilarious jabs between Okabe and Kurisu, the image of Daru at the computer, Mayuri knitting, maybe Kurisu writing formulas on a board and Okabe doing whatever, maybe a schizophrenic episode. Each one locked into their own idiosyncrasies but somehow still together comfortably. It's the importance of connection, the intimacy and its nuance, the awkward but fun navigation of socializing with others, sometimes confusing, even isolating. Maybe on some subconscious level, I've always understood SteinsGate's characters because I see myself in them. The way they value having fun with others, but also that awkward need for more than that. That part is the hard part. Surface level of socialization is easy. I can talk to Tom Patterson about the weather and say, it's going. This stuff is easy if you mask the proper way, but maybe that just perpetuates a feeling of loneliness, a disconnect between true feelings and what comes into reality. Sometimes it's hard to know if the person I show off to others is a fake, a performance I regurgitate through the subconscious studying of others. But does it really matter? That's how SteinsGate makes me feel. I think of the sentiment from the Monogatari series. The fake is more valuable than the real thing because in the attempt to become real, it becomes more valuable than the real thing. I feel something like this, like the feeling that motivates people like SteinsGate's characters, that hunger and desire for companionship, is real and so valuable it eclipses any performativity. It pushes past any pretense. It leaks out past the boundaries of time. The intense desire to become real makes you more real than you realize. The characters of SteinsGate feel like real friends the way affection and comfort is veiled in digs at each other. Humans crave play and that is what banter is amongst them, especially Okabe and Kurisu, always verbally hurling stones at each other but always getting closer. The feelings the digs obscure gets across. And it's always funny. It's almost poetic that the first time I watched SteinsGate was with someone I'm extremely close with, ballooning that intangible feeling of intimacy like a Bowser balloon minigame in Mario Party. The Future Gadget Lab feels like a place where I belong. I've seen many more anime and stories that are higher concept than SteinsGate, which is cool, but it still remains my favorite because it's a story where every time I come back to it, I feel like me. There's a shot from the first episode of SteinsGate where Okabe is caught alone with no one else on the city streets after he time leaps for the first time. I find this symbolic of SteinsGate and Okabe's conflict, but comes full circle in the absolute last scene of the show as Okabe is swarmed with people around him, but only one other person is clear in front of him as he is ready to make that leap, to make a connection with the person he loves the most, with a connection that hopefully transcends time. Within a sea of infinite possibilities, maybe such a thing is possible. Such a thing almost feels bigger than us. Such an intimate, visceral connection that when it happens, it feels like the choice of the universe. But maybe it's actually us who can make it possible. Maybe that is the choice of SteinsGate.